Okay, here we are. We're going to go over this soil recipe that I've been using for nearly 2 years, and it's given me really healthy plants. So it's pretty simple. We're going to start with 3 parts perlite. Here's 1, 2, 3. And then I use 2 parts peat moss, but I'm kind of experimenting right now, so I'm going to do 1 part peat moss and 1 part coco coir. But I've always used peat moss. And I use Jiffy seed starter mix for my peat moss. The perlite, I use this soil for wick watering, by the way, but I've also used it just for bottom watering too. Okay, half part vermiculite, and the vermiculite's really important because it helps keep the soil from compacting. And compaction is usually a big cause of root rot. Now, I've started adding leca, lightweight expanded aggregate, to my soil simply because it also keeps plants from drowning, because it adds a little oxygen pill in there, you know. It holds oxygen and it can hold moisture. Now I've got 1/4 part charcoal. And I just use 1/4 because too much charcoal can be a nutrient sink. So you just want a tiny bit. And it's been rinsed. And then 1/4 part, and this is really important. I don't care if it's landscape bark. This is landscape bark that I screened the bigger stuff, the really big stuff out of. But African violets really like bark. And some of your best African violet pre-mixed soils, you'll see there's little chunks of bark in there. So if you can get even a handful of bark into that, it really helps. Okay, now this is EcoTraction Pro. 2 tablespoons of zeolite. And it's a road grip de-icer. And I like the Pro because it's chunkier. So it's less likely to compact your soil. And then we've got 1/8 of a teaspoon of Epsom salt, and don't go any more than that, and make sure you spread it evenly, because that's for your magnesium. It can burn them. So less is better when it comes to the magnesium. But they like a little bit. And the magnesium helps with this next ingredient, which is the garden lime, which is your calcium carbonate. So you need magnesium, and the calcium kind of need to be given together for the plant to take it up. Sorry, I keep moving you around. I don't have these in the right area. So I've got some ingredients here that I've been using for 2 years that I think make a difference. And one is azomite rock powder. And this is 1 teaspoon. And azomite is just a powder from quarries, from when they cut the rocks up, granite and stuff, and it's full of minerals. So it just adds extra minerals to it. And let's see, what do I got here? This is, I think it's 1/8, yeah, 1/8 of a teaspoon of rooting hormone, or butyric acid. And it just helps get them jump started. You know, when you've repotted them, they get a lot of injury to those micro roots. And they're not really taking anything up until they form new micro roots. I don't care how many roots, healthy roots you see there, the micro roots get damaged. And then this is my favorite houseplant fertilizer, Eco Scraps. And I put 1 teaspoon in here, and this stuff is like nitrogen 4, phosphorus 2, sometimes it's 1 or 0, and then potassium 0. And the cool thing about this, it comes from restaurant and grocery store veggies that didn't get sold and went bad, and they compost them and mix them with charcoal. And the cool thing about it is it's low and it doesn't release nitrogen until it starts to break down. So it also allows for that decomposition process, which creates mycorrhizae in the soil. So it's very beneficial. All right, and then we've got, I stay light on the Osmocote, especially lately. And this is Osmocote Plus. It's got the micronutrients, all the minerals in it. And if you get too much of this stuff, you can poison your plants. So less is better, I always say. Very little in there. So that's it. That is the lightweight, well-draining soil I use for my African violets. And I always use a leca layer of at least an inch, preferably 2 inches, underneath this. And I'll run the wick, which is a really tiny wick. We're talking 1 strand of a 4-ply yarn. Let me grab one here and show you. I've got them laying around here. Where's the singular one? Here we go. I just want to show you it. Let you look at these pretty plants while I'm sorting this out. So, this is just 1 strand of knitting yarn. See it? Just 1 strand. And, you know, you're talking knitting yarn has 4 strands in it. So all I use on my violets is 1 little strand, and I run it over the leca and around the edge of the pot. Always. Okay, I'm going to show you a printout of all this so you can take a screenshot, but let's see who's who real quick. Who's in bloom? This is Shining Bluebell, Harmony's Hot Flash, Kay's Fiesta Lady. This is the darker flower I got from my Chimera. So I got these pinwheels and then it threw this dark leaf plant. But you know what? It's still got kind of a zebra striping underneath. So this is still a Chimera. It just has this gorgeous flower on it. And then this is Tiger. And this is Ethel's Wild Side with a gorgeous fantasy flower. And then we've got Love Struck. We've got Lion's Private Dancer, who is not in bloom at the moment. We've got Harmony's Ice Queen. I love this flower. We have Happy Harold, who zippered on me, and I will never get a single crown on this again. So I'm going to set some leaves and pluck some of the individual crowns. This is Willowdene. This is my favorite of every violet I have. Look at that leaf. How can you not absolutely love that leaf? And then we've got the very well-known Watermelon Snow with stunning leaves also. And this is my Little Stinker Sport, which has just the most beautiful flowers. They're such a pretty color. And then we've got Bubblegum Charm, Lacy Lass, L.E. Rima, which is a pretty variegated violet. Look at the colors in that. And then we've got Blueberry Hill, which is a beautiful plant. And here's my actual Chimera that I originally set a pinwheel. And I got that solid blue one with the dark leaves. And by the way, isn't this cool? Even the leaves have different color. Half green, half red backed. Same with on top. And then we've got Rose Bouquet, one of my favorites. Carolina's Elegant Affair. This is Good Deeds, also known as Nil Evdokia. And DN New Star, one of my favorites. And then Just Jeff, who's out of control and looks like a big popsicle. But I let my miniatures grow into huge mounds. Check him out, how tall he is. Whoa, he's big. I love him that way. I stopped trying to keep them into little teeny crown plants a long time ago. Okay, let me get the list. And I know if I grab this camera with my left hand, I'll end up covering the mic. But here it is. With all the, down here are the fertilizers, the additives, and then up above is the soil. So there you go. Thanks for joining me, you guys. I appreciate you being here, and you all have a lovely day.